I have a question for you. Are you repeating the same piece of code again and again using your JavaScript codes? I want you to imagine if you could write your logic once, and then you will be able to use it anytime and also anywhere. This new technique that I'll be showing you is what we call functions, and it will allow you to basically to do exactly how I described it. So in this video, we're going to break down functions in the simplest way possible. So you can follow along. I have created how to create your JavaScript development environment, and you can watch it at the end of the screen, even if you're just starting your JavaScript journey. And we'll run it inside this development environment so you can practice, make mistakes, and be mature in your JavaScript coding. Before we begin, I'd like you to hit the subscribe button and join as a member to support more beginner-friendly JavaScript tutorials like this. And now let us dive in. On this code example that I have pasted, this is the simplest form of a function where we start a keyword that we use function, that you can see on line 2, and gave it a name of greet. And inside the curly braces that you see here, so this is the beginning and end curly braces, we wrote our code or instructions on how the implementation is going to behave. So this is something I'd like you to notice, and this is quite important. Nothing will be executed. The code will only run when we call the function described on line 7. So basically, on the JavaScript sense, we are basically calling the function. As we declare the function from line 2 to 4, then we need to run it by declaring it on this example, like on line 7. So think of this like a recipe where you can write down the steps to make pancakes, but until you actually follow those steps, no pancakes will appear. So same thing here, writing the function is the recipe and calling it is cooking the dish. So I'll let you run the script on your developer instance so you can experience how it will behave. So I'll give you another example from line 9, and this example will give you a different experience, and it will give you the reason why you should bother and need to fully understand what the function is. And the main value it could give you, it will save you a lot of repetition. So in this example, on line 9 to 11, instead of writing 2 plus 3 or 5 plus 7 repetitively, we then wrap the logic in one function called add, in short of addition. And A and B that you see here on line 9 are called parameters. So they are placeholder, so it will allow you to provide inputs for data processing. So to give you a bigger picture, all the technology can do is process data. And without data, of course, it cannot process anything. And as we call add on inside this function on line 13, the numbers or parameters we pass are called arguments. And I'd like you to remember the difference of parameters and arguments. These are the common pitfalls of new developers. So parameters are the fields that you describe in your function. And as you enter dot in your functions, like on this example, and that is when we call them arguments. And the return keyword here on line 10 will send the result back. So basically what's trying to say, once you put something in, something should also come back. Instead of rewriting additional logic everywhere, so we just reuse one function that can be utilized across multiple systems. So this allows you to make one investment, one creation, a shorter one, a cleaner, and an easier to maintain application. And as we add more code examples from line 16 onwards, it gives you a better picture as another example of a code structure inside the function. So once you call the function, it is a JavaScript keyword that declares the behavior of a function. And the multiply is the name. So you can basically put any name, but as a best practice, you need to basically describe an actionable name on what activity your function is expected to do, where x and y is your parameters, and these naming conventions will depend also on the type of function that you would like to implement. And you can be processing an enrollment. And as you add an enrollment function, then you may also include the correct parameters like first name, last name, and so on. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, then you can basically replace the name, the parameters, and also how you will going to process your data, like on our example on this line 16 to 18. And inside this curly braces that you see here, so they are like organizers where it shows the beginning and end of your function. And the return result or the return gives the outback to the caller. So now as you declare the function on line 16 to 19, you will have a caller on line 21. And as you pass an argument, which is 4 and 5 in this example, then it should result to an outcome of 20. So I'll let you find out, and I would say get your hands dirty, follow along with the examples so you get more experience on how a function works in JavaScript. And on this example, I'll give you a different type, which is focused more into a string. So this is called a function declaration. One unique thing, these are hoisted. That means JavaScript actually moves them to the top of the file when it runs your code. So you can call say hi even before this line and it still works. So meaning the behavior of the technology, as I copy this and basically paste it even before the function has been declared, the system has the ability to still read even if the function has not yet been declared. So technically speaking, it reads, the JavaScript framework reads all the code and the script even before functionable aspects are initiated, and that is one of the features and capability of the technology. And on this next example, we call this from line 31 function expression. Here, we stored a function inside the variable. This is called a function expression. Unlike declarations, like what you see on line 23, expressions are not hoisted. You must define them before you call them. And now as this variable is consuming a function, now you can call this variable behaving like a function. So you have to remember the structure has to be correct depending on its type for your code to run successfully. And finally, we have arrow functions. I have pasted this. You can see that it's showing an error. So because the global scope is using an old version of JavaScript, so I suggest to change to another scope so you get to use the latest JavaScript version. So I don't want you to worry about scopes at this stage. And I will share with you another video specific on learning JavaScript scopes at the end of this screen. So finally, arrow functions, they are shorter and a modern way of writing functions. So here, where n is the expression of n times n, means take n and return n multiplied by n. So here it's a quick and clean, especially when writing small functions. And we call this also anonymous functions in JavaScript because it doesn't have a name that implies to the function. So you just saw three ways to write the function: the declaration, expression, and so here is the big question for you. Which one should you use first as a beginner? So I'd like you to stick around because I'll show you when each style is useful in real life scenarios. And if you're following along, drop a comment with your favorite function style so far. Is it declaration, expression, or arrow? And don't forget to click super thanks if this tutorial is helping you grow your JavaScript skill set. Now on this code example that I'm about to put in from line 39, sometimes we forget to pass arguments. And on this example, we provide a default parameter. So it gives you the ability to initiate a backup value. So here, if a blank argument has not been given or no name has been given, then the function automatically uses guessed on this example. So calling on line 43 that greet user Bill, that will have an outcome of hello Bill. And on line 44, it will print hello guest. So this is one of the few ways to keep your code safe from missing user inputs. So variables live in a scope. So here, message is created inside the function where you can find line 48. That means it only exists while the function runs. If you try to use it outside JavaScript, it will throw an error. This is actually a good thing because it keeps variables from clashing across different parts of your code. So functions can basically work with the entire collection of data. If you remember our previous lessons about an array, so here the sum of an array takes an array loop through each statement and adds it to a total. So when we pass, for example, on line 62, 5 numbers, then the function will return 15. So I'll be teaching you operational techniques on like what you see on line 56. So this is what we call the for loop. And I don't want you to worry about the for loop for now, since I'll be teaching you on the coming lessons. So in this example, on the entire collections of data, this is a real step up from adding numbers one by one. It shows how functions combined with loops can solve bigger problems with just a few lines of code. And this another example is slightly advanced but a fun concept. A function can actually return a number another function. The make counter creates a counts variable and returns a new function that increases it. So every time we call a counter, it remembers the last value. This is called the closure. And while you don't need to master all of it right now, it's good to see that functions can be more than just simple calculations. So this beginner or introductory lesson for functions, I will give you a full lesson and a much more deeper understanding on the coming lessons to allow you to master the JavaScript functions, since you will be utilizing this both as a beginner and a master in JavaScript. So let's have a recap. So functions are reusable blocks of code. So here you learned how to create them, how to call them, and how to pass parameters. Use return value, set default value, and manage scope. We also saw functions working with array and even functions returning other functions, which is a big step forward in your JavaScript journey. And I'd like to thank you for watching. If you found this tutorial helpful, hit the subscribe button, join as a member, and check out the full JavaScript for Beginners playlist link at the end of this screen. Keep practicing because the more you write functions, the easier JavaScript will become. I'll see you in the next lesson.